This is Omar Ahmed for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. I really do thank Adam Smith for jumping on this Zoom because it must have been an extremely last 48 hours of madness, 72 hours of pure hectic stress. Adam, how's it been?
It has been. It's been non-stop, really. I think ever since that final bell went on Saturday night at the incredible Tottenham Stadium after seeing such a battle between Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua and such a performance from the Ukrainian. It literally hasn't stopped, obviously. You know, there are huge ramifications, inquests, all of that into what happened, why it happened, what happens next. Plus, of course, we've got a hugely important week this week as we sort of launch into our new era with our first boxer show on Saturday night at Wembley Arena, which we're really excited about. So, yeah, it has been absolutely manic since Saturday night, and of course before that was fairly busy building up to the huge event that was AJ and Usyk, and now Alexander Usyk stands as world heavyweight champion. What an incredible story!
Yeah, let's talk about Alexander Usyk first. Can you just sum up his performance for me, please?
I thought it was terrific. I thought he was absolutely spot on from the first bell. I thought he started brilliantly. He finished even stronger. I always sort of felt that this could be a bad fight for Joshua. Styles make fights, as we know. It's an old cliche, but I did worry that Joshua had a round and a half of professional experience only against the southpaw. He'd been stopped by Mihar Nista in the amateurs, the Romanian southpaw. And although he trained long and hard for this fight, I just felt that, going in with a pound for pound best southpaw with such mobility and agility and intelligence, ring IQ, was always going to be a tough ask, particularly if he didn't utilize his real advantages, which was, physical, longer jab, heavier hands, natural sort of super heavyweight in the amateurs as opposed to the heavyweight when they were in London 2012. So, yeah, I always felt it was a very dangerous fight for Joshua. I think most people felt beforehand that he would find a way, that he would stop the sort of smaller man. I thought Fraser Clark made a really good point on our broadcast on Saturday night when he was asked by Andy Scott about the big man and the little man. And he said the little men aren't so little anymore because they're really, really well conditioned. This isn't 25 years ago, nutrition, conditioning, everything is so much better these days that, and Alexander Usyk was such a strong and powerful 15 stone 11 man, and that never came into play, did it? It was a masterclass from Usyk. Joshua had his moments. There were rounds that I felt he won. I think, a sort of six deficit, 6 rounds by about 6. I had it 118, 112. I think 117, 112 if you gave maybe one of those even. So, around about that 5 or 6 rounds, I thought it was. I thought that the 2-round margin that Howard Foster was too narrow, but the other 2 I thought were about right. I'm really pleased the judges scored it right. I felt it was a very, very good performance by Alexander Usyk, who boxed beautifully from pretty much from start to finish. And let's not take away the guts and courage and, attempts Anthony Joshua made to stay with him. I just felt he didn't throw enough punches in bunches. He didn't try and push Usyk back into corners. And I just wondered, after 8-9 rounds, whether, he just needed to throw absolute caution to the wind and go for it. Obviously, his eye was bad in the 9th. But, it wasn't his night. It was Alexander Usyk's night. It's a wonderful story. He's been a fabulous guy to have around over the last 3 or 4 years, working with him so closely on the Bellew fights. And obviously when he came to fight Derek Chisora, and, he's a real character. He's enigmatic, charismatic. He's mercurial. He's wonderful. And I think people, the casual fans, maybe Umar, didn't quite realize how good Usyk was. I think they thought it's not Fury, therefore Joshua will win. And I think that, us in the trade, you guys and all of us sort of who work in boxing week in, week out, realized how hard a fight it was as a mandatory for Joshua. And so it proved. And now, the rematch, the way forward and all of that. Heavyweight boxing is always dramatic and unpredictable, and it turns like it does. And we welcome Alexander Usyk as a heavyweight champion of the world. What a terrific story, becoming only the third man to win the heavyweight title after moving up from cruiserweight. Evander Holyfield, David Haye, and now Alexander Usyk, and one of the only southpaws as a heavyweight champion of the world. I worked closely with Michael Moorer many years ago, and he was one of those. And obviously we had Charles Martin's brief reign, but that's another great story. So well done, Alexander Usyk and his team. They believed they'd do it. They waited many, many years for this opportunity. They felt they had the beating of Anthony Joshua stylistically, and they were right.
So, of course, yeah, we have to give massive credit to Alexander Usyk. But since the fight, I've heard a lot of people who are disappointed with Joshua's tactics. Is that the case, or do we just have to say Usyk negated Joshua's game plan and we just got to give Usyk the credit and that's that?
I think there's a bit of both. Obviously, there's going to be major inquests into why and the sort of. I think the point is that Alexander Usyk was, the better fighter, the better boxer. He was superior. He painted a beautiful picture at Tottenham, which was, on another night, the best atmosphere I think I remember, certainly right up there. It was absolutely fantastic pre-fight, an incredible, wonderful sort of stadium and setting for it. And of course, the British fight fans would have wanted that Joshua victory and, party long into the night. But boxing doesn't work like that, as we know. And I think you've got to give Alexander Usyk huge credit for the way he went about it tactically, executing a perfect game plan. For Joshua, yes, there are question marks. You look at, did he think, or his team think, that they could outbox the boxer? Obviously, he's been working very hard over the last couple of years. The Ruiz rematch, the time he spent during lockdown in the gym, huge amounts of work they've put in, with Rob McCracken and Joby and Angel, the sort of new team. And I think that, I spent some time in Sheffield and they had a load of different sparring partners up there. And he was working really, really hard on, improving his boxing. He always says it's practice. It's, we get better every day. I just wonder if they thought that maybe they could outbox Alexander Usyk and didn't utilize those sort of major strengths that he had. What Joshua is, he's obviously very athletic. He's a good boxer. Of course he is. He won Olympic gold. He's won, almost all of his professional fights. The man is a very, very, very good boxer. But is he as good as Alexander Usyk? No. And it showed on Saturday night that, the pure boxer of Usyk was just too good. I think the southpaw style had a real relevance to it as well. I think that lack of professional experience and also the lack of amateur experience. You've got to remember, AJ sort of moved so quickly through the amateurs as well. He was coming up against a guy who'd had 350 amateur fights and seen every single style, the WSB, and then 18 fights unbeaten as a pro going in. It was a really tough ask, and much tougher, I think, than people who were sort of thinking about the size, thinking about the natural heavyweight, thinking about the knockouts, the AJ knockouts, and looking at Pulev. And look, the Pulev fight, he could practice. He had him hurt in the third round. He sort of, he did very well to sort of push it out a little bit further, try a few things. I think that was a good fight to practice on because, Pulev, warrior, strong, tough, but not anywhere near the same sort of class as a boxer as Usyk. So I think that was a time to practice. I think Saturday night was a time to nail the tactics. And I was surprised that he didn't utilize, more of his physical attributes, his strength, try and back up Usyk into corners, pin him on the ropes, throw combinations. But I think that, you've got to take your hat off to Alexander Usyk, because every time Joshua was thinking of that, Usyk was ready with that backhand and he was peppering him. And, it's not that easy, I don't think, when you're in there. You've got to ask Anthony Joshua that. And what I like about AJ is his absolute willingness to go up against the best and to be in really competitive fights. And, I've read some stuff about, he's getting a lot of criticism, Joshua and the team. And I think, in many ways, I think you've got to sort of take a step back and say, look, Anthony Joshua is a two-time heavyweight champion. He's done brilliantly well. He's got major other assets in the fact that, there's a huge fan base. He's a great ambassador for the sport. He rarely comes up with any sort of excuses other than that it wasn't my night. And, I think we've really got to applaud him and his team for that. And he wants to come back. He wants to sort of, straight back in the gym, go back into the rematch. Is that the right thing? People will have their own opinions, whether he can beat Alexander Usyk. But I love his mentality, the fact that he wants to try to beat the very best. You know, you look at his resume, it's been fantastic. It's been full of top fighters, you know, from Vladimir Klitschko, you know, that the unification with Joseph Parker, who was unbeaten. And, you know, he doesn't duck anyone. And everyone said, he hasn't had the Wilder fight. He never wanted Fury. I think that's totally wrong. I think he does want those fights. He does want to test himself. Whether he wins or not is another matter, but I really respect Anthony Joshua for that. And he battled through in a tough night when he's on the end of some superb sort of surgical boxing from Alexander Usyk, you know, with speed and movement, and it must have been pretty tough in there for him. But yeah, tactically, I think it was maybe a little naive, and also I think that I don't really understand why they didn't sort of go for it a bit more in sort of the second half of the fight. Obviously, the eye injury was a problem in the ninth, and I think the last couple of rounds he was very tired. But yeah, I think that was slightly strange. Whether that would have made any difference on that night, I don't know. But I think in a rematch, they've got to think again about, you know, how they go about it. You know, it's almost like you go into battle with your weapons, don't you, with your strengths. And I just wonder whether they thought they could outbox Usyk. And if they did, that was a real mistake. I mean, maybe they could have mixed it up, you know, tried things out, different combinations, but he never really did that. And while he had a success to the body, I thought there was a good couple of rounds that he had, the fifth and sixth, and it looked like maybe he was getting his confidence back. I think he was quite shocked with how good Usyk was in the first 3 or 4 rounds, and it sort of set the pace. And there was time, I think Matt Macklin felt in commentary, you know, that however fast Usyk started, there was a chance that Joshua, you know, could turn it around, that natural sort of weight advantage, you know, maybe the experience at heavyweights as well. But apart from those sort of middle rounds, and he had a good eighth as well, he never really got into a sort of rhythm because the rhythm was all Alexander Usyk. So yeah, lots of ways of looking at it, but I think it's better to say that Alexander Usyk was brilliant, outstanding, and thoroughly deserves to become the heavyweight champion of the world.
Adam, obviously I spoke to a lot of people in the last 48 hours, and a few people, I'll name them, Jamie Moore, Peter McDonough, Frank Warren, all said similar things, in that they felt there was too many voices, too many people in Joshua's corner. On commentary, did you pick that up?
I can understand that. Actually, the sound from the corners sometimes is mixed with music, and it's, you know, on a night like that, it's often sort of hard to hear everything that's said in the corner. Although you obviously love to drop in because that's the sort of magic. But you know, with the atmosphere and the music and everything, it can be quite tough. You know, I go back to when Lennox Lewis used to fight, and Emmanuel Stewart sort of ran that corner. But then when Nassim Hamid went to Emmanuel Stewart, he had Oscar Suarez and Emmanuel Stewart, and they were both talking to him. And then they did sort of one, you know, round each, which I never really understood. I think you need someone in your corner. And for AJ, that's Robert McCracken. You know, he's stuck by Rob. You know, Rob has taken him all the way through, has done fantastically well for him for so many years. After Andy Ruiz, people were saying, you've got to get rid of Robert McCracken, you've got to do something different. He didn't. He kept with him. He kept faith in Rob, and he added to that with Angel Fernandez and Joby Clayton. And of course, when you've got 3 different voices, whether it's in, you know, your day-to-day sparring or whether it's on the night, you can get conflicting stuff. I also noticed that AJ was sort of looking at Tony Bellew a lot, who was sitting near us, and almost not taking instruction from Tony, I wouldn't say that, but sort of certainly looking at him for a bit of help maybe as well. And I think, you know, I think it just probably comes down to the fact that, you know, Usyk is very, very good, and he didn't quite know sort of what to do and how to do it. And I think maybe, yeah, you probably are. I'm not surprised that, you know, Jamie's a trainer, he knows better than I do, but, you know, I think sometimes you do need that voice. And I felt also that late on, you know, probably he needed a bit of a rocket, you know, to say a sort of Teddy Atlas speech, you know, to say, come on, you know, think of JJ at home, think of this, you know, a bit of that. But that's not Rob's style. It never has been. And look how successful Robert McCracken has been, you know, phenomenally successful, not just with Anthony Joshua, but with Carl Froch, you know, taking him sort of virtually unbeaten in the last few years of his career as well. You know, he had that, obviously the loss to Andre Ward and stuff, but he'd had an amazing sort of finish, especially when we were working with him at Sky, and you could see how Rob was so instrumental to Carl. And you know, you can't take away from the fact that he's just come back from Tokyo with the best medal haul ever, with 6 medals. So Rob McCracken's absolutely fantastic. Whether they got it right as a team on the night, I can understand people sort of questioning that, but they have their reasons. They are closer to Anthony than anyone else. They obviously believe that, you know, he was in the fight and that he could win the fight, and that's what they did. So it's easy to criticize after the event. I was surprised that, you know, the tactics weren't sort of changed. He didn't throw, as I said, caution to the wind a bit more. I think he needed that sort of back end of the fight, and I think it was, you know, wrong to think they could outbox Alexander Usyk because of the pedigree that the Ukrainian, you know, brought into the ring. But whether they wanted to mix it up and it just wasn't working, and you know, the Joshua was just on the end of a lot of punches, and you know, you obviously change for a fight, so very difficult. You know, don't really want to sort of throw, as a broadcaster, throw criticism at, you know, at fighters at corners, but you know, I try to look at sort of, you know, why something's happened, and I think really you've got to look at the fact that Alexander Usyk was the better boxer, the better fighter, and you know, it's up to Team Joshua to try and turn that around in the rematch. Is he going to stay with the same team? I mean, history would think he would. History would think that he'll go back to Sheffield and go back with, you know, the group of them. Will he add to it again? Will he change some things? I don't know. That's questions for Team Joshua. But as far as I'm concerned, I think, you know, the rematch is a tough fight on what I saw on Saturday night, and it's up to Anthony to come back. He's proved it against Andy Ruiz. He'll go back to the drawing board. He'll come up with something different. He did that night against Ruiz. I think it'll be harder for this because of the quality of Usyk, but it must involve something along the lines of utilising his advantages, his strength, his power, and you know, really going for it, I think, in the next fight. But yeah, Saturday night was Alexander Usyk's night. I can understand the question marks. It always comes out. It did when he lost against Ruiz in the Garden. You know, why did it happen? Was something wrong? Did he have an argument beforehand? Was he really there? All of that sort of stuff. Ultimately, he got beaten, and this happens. You know, I saw messages of Tyson Fury. I think Tyson felt that Anthony would win the fight. And you know, and he said to me, this is boxing. You know, you win some, you lose some. You know, he did his best, and that's all you can ask. Some people will say, was it his best? But maybe it's more of what Alexander Usyk took away from Anthony Joshua on Saturday night. I thought he was spellbindingly good.
Of course, it's a huge rematch, needless to say, but this first fight was a big one as well, a huge one, a stadium one. So I'm guessing the buys were really solid for this, Adam.
I mean, obviously that's something that Sky look at, and we'll sort of see them come through in the next sort of few weeks. It takes time, these things, with all the different ways and the different sort of methods of you know, taking the box office fight, etc. So that will come through, but I'm sure they're strong. I'm sure they're good, and you know, we're very happy with what happened on Saturday night, in the fact that it was an amazing event, an incredible Sky Sports box office night in so many ways. As I said, the atmosphere was incredible. Fans back for the first time, which was just brilliant. You know, 67,000 to see them really enjoying themselves and coming back out. We've so missed them during boxing, during the COVID and the lockdown, and it's, you know, boxing in front of quieter arenas, and you know, for us as commentators, being sort of right back at the back of halls, back at ringside, you know, feeling the sort of energy and the love of the fans for boxing, for the fact that, you know, sport is back. I think that was terrific. So it looked incredible. I thought, as I said, the atmosphere was right up there. Matt was talking about different ones he'd been at around the world, me too. And I just think that was the cauldron of Spurs. The way that Tottenham Stadium had been built was just right for boxing. I'd always felt that, and I was really glad we went there, and I'd love to go back. Yeah, but as far as the spectacle goes, I'm sure buys are good. It was a fascinating event, and yeah, for British fight fans, it's disappointing. It's disappointing for people who thought we were going to get the Fury fight next. But this is heavyweight boxing. You know, I always say you can't predict what happens when that bell goes. You know, it's the fighters get on with it, and then we you know, we ascertain it during the fight. We call it as we see it, and you know, Usyk was brilliant. And then what happens next? Does Joshua try and regain his title straight away? That automatic rematch, it looks like it. What happens when Fury and Wilder meet in, you know, in a week and a half's time or so? I mean, it's, you know, that's, you'd have thought Tyson Fury will get through him after what happened last time, but you never know. Wilder's got the power, and you know, everyone was saying beforehand it's going to be Joshua Fury. Will it be, you know, Fury and Usyk? Will it be Usyk and Wilder? Then what happens? What if Tyson loses? Do they then try and make the AJ Fury fight without, the belts? Or if Tyson wins, they try and go that way? Or it seems to me that the team, Joshua's team and Eddie are very convinced that he'll go straight into a rematch in February or March. And that seems to be what all the signs that came out of Saturday night in the aftermath, that's what would happen. But you never know, do you, in this crazy business, and that's why we love it. It's unpredictable, and but it was a really successful night all around on Saturday. And people will say to me, well, apart from the result, no, the result was excellent. Alexander Usyk won the fight. The judges got it absolutely spot on. It was a fantastic 12 rounds, and there's nothing wrong with Anthony Joshua losing a fight. This happens. He's gone in there. He's tested himself against his mandatory. Give him respect for that. It went wrong for him, and he was outboxed on the night by somebody who was brilliant. He's one of the pound for pound kings in boxing, Alexander Usyk. He hadn't proved it at heavyweight. I think the two fights against Witherspoon and Derek were, people were saying he's not going to make it as a heavyweight, but styles make fights. And I always felt that this was a style that was difficult for Anthony Joshua, and so it proved. Now it's up to him to see whether he can eke out a win in the rematch. And most people I've spoken to said, no chance, he can't beat Alexander Usyk. Never, ever write heavyweight fighters off, ever. And Anthony Joshua will do everything he can to get back into training and try and right the wrong. And he did it against Andy Ruiz. And I know Ruiz was heavy, and I know Ruiz hasn't trained hard enough and all of that, but he went in and did it. He exercised the demons, and he executed a perfect game plan in Saudi. It's going to be harder for Usyk, no question. But is it impossible? No, nothing's impossible in heavyweight boxing. People were saying to me, Usyk hasn't got a chance, a hope. He's far too small. He's going to get knocked out in 4 or 5 rounds. Put my house on it. What are they thinking now?
Adam, it was no secret that was Joshua's last fight on his contract with Sky. And I'm sure there's going to be multiple broadcasters who want to do this rematch, including yourselves, of course, in a tremendous run you've had with Anthony Joshua so far. So obviously, I know you're not going to go into detail, but just to let the fans know, has that process started now? And where are we with that?
Yeah, as I said before the fight, we've having negotiations with Team Joshua for a while. I mean, we've been with him from the beginning. We've been with him since October 2013, the debut with Emmanuel Leo. It's been a wonderful relationship, a synergy, a fantastic sort of partnership on both sides. Anthony's loyal. Anthony stayed with Rob. He stayed with Eddie. He'll stay with Sky. I really believe that. And I think that, are we going to say, oh, now just because he's lost, oh, actually, we're not that interested? Of course not. He's a huge, huge name. He's a massive sort of sporting icon and star. The fact that he's lost a fight against somebody who is exceptionally good, okay, it's derailed plans a little bit. It's changed things slightly, and he'll have to find a way back. But the story is ongoing. Before this fight, he told us he wanted to fight another 5-6 years. He loves what he does. After the fight, he wanted to get straight back into the gym. I think actually he should take a rest. That's my personal opinion, because I think he's been in the gym so much over the last couple of years. I think he could do with a rest. Put his feet up, go out to Vegas, watch Fury and Wilder, have a bit of fun. I don't know, spend time with the family. I think he should actually do that for a few weeks. I think he should just almost forget about, going back into the gym. But that's what he's like. He's a competitor, I mean, I played him at chess beforehand. He's got this new love of chess, and he's desperate to win anything, Umar. He's got that in him, which is why I've got huge respect for Joshua, because he's brilliant. He's a fantastic, personality. He's a lovely man. He's done exceptionally well over the years, and he's brought boxing right into the forefront, selling out stadiums time and time again. So obviously, the daggers are out. People are going to say, oh, Tyson Fury would knock him out. He's proved he's not good enough. And he's a 2-time heavyweight champion. Okay. He lost to a pound for pound great fighter. There's no disgrace in that. Not at all. Now the story moves on. How does he come back? Will he come back? How much is left? Can he right the wrong? Will he go on a different path? Will he end up fighting a Wilder or a Dillian there's lots out there for him, as long as he wants to continue. He's made a lot of money. he can do what he likes, really. He's calling the shots, isn't he? Because it's up to him now. We know people that have walked away in their late 20s in boxing, having been very, very successful. He's in his early 30s. He could walk away or he could carry on for another 8 years. It's up to him. But as far as we're concerned, absolutely. We'll look at that. We'll continue talking to his team. And I'm very confident that he'll stay as a Sky fighter when he carries on and when he moves on probably to the rematch. And of course, there's huge interest in the rematch. So, yes, we're very confident that he'll stay with us.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that with us. Adam, Eddie spoke to Coogan yesterday and said that he felt like he wasn't very much interviewed during the week. He said he was interviewed, I think, once or twice during the week and used to do hundreds on Sky before. Have you just got a comment on that?
What do you think he'll do hundreds on Sky now? I mean, let's be straight here, Umar, right? Eddie worked with us for many years, brilliant spokesman, brilliant promoter, fantastic time. He then decided to move to DAZN. He took his entire Matchroom stable, leaving us with not very much, leaving us with a contract with Anthony Joshua, but a whole task to try and rebuild where we were going to go with Sky Boxing. What's happened is that there has now been a huge feeling amongst the business that we go again. There's a massive amount of people, right at the top level of Comcast, who are backing us to come back into boxing in a big way. 2 terrific new deals, a 4-year deal with Boxer and our first show on Saturday night. It's going to look different. It's going to feel different. It's going to be a brilliant start to a new era. We've got a 4-year deal with Top Rank. I'm having lunch with Todd DeBerth today. Really excited about the development of that. Some massive names. We've got more content now on Sky than we've ever had. I've said time and time again, I really enjoyed working with Eddie Hearn, and I worked with him for 10 years and I spoke to him every day. And he's charismatic and he's a brilliant promoter, no question. But he left us to go to DAZN. Let's be very clear about that. He started with different people. He's done interviews himself, about Sky since then. And I was very clear, this is an Anthony Joshua fight where we're working with Matchroom. I like Frank Smith very much. I love the team very much. We've had many, many years of working together. And as you saw, we were professional, we went straight back into it, and we worked together with them for the good of everybody and the business that we work on. Anthony Joshua and Sky and Matchroom together. And of course, Anthony Joshua's got a big new deal, a life deal really, with Matchroom. So we're hoping that we can finalize our deal with AJ going forward. It's different now, of course. It's a different scenario. He's got to come back. He's lost his world heavyweight titles. But of course, we're hoping that. We hope we'll be there for the rematch, and we'll be working with Eddie and Matchroom and the team just as professionally and just as well and just as strongly as we always have. In the middle, we've got our own business to take care of. He's working for DAZN now. He's working with DAZN. He's working on in a whole totally different world. We're working with Boxer. We're very excited about that. Very excited about Ben Shalom and his great team. Very excited about what we can do, the platform we've got, who we're going to sign, the select fighters we're going to really work on to becoming big stars. It's a long, long journey ahead. It's a work in progress, because let's just get that straight again, Umar. He had huge amount of fighters in Matchroom on Sky, and they have left and gone. So we had a blank canvas and we've had to start again. So for Eddie to say that, we interviewed him, I know, on the Tuesday night, the workouts when I was there. He obviously was all over the press conference. We did, I think, a promo with him, leading us into battle. Of course, you need in pay-per-view week with an anti-Joshua fight, you understand why Eddie as the promoter is very important. But, there was certainly nothing that the team out there, Sky Sports News, absolutely interviewed him. We utilized him. If you didn't feel that was enough, then that's what he feels. But he was certainly part of it. But to be honest, the fighters are the most important, Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk. And, we took time to get to Joshua, but on the Thursday, we got lots of stuff with Anthony. Alexander Usyk and his team were great. And, we heard a lot from Eddie during the week, and we heard a lot from everybody. It was a great fight and a great build-up, and together we worked as a team, and it was a fantastic result. And, I call out Frank Smith as doing an excellent job with everything, because, you've got to remember the team have worked together with Matchroom for a long time, and now we're split up and we're working in with difference. We're working with Boxer and Top Rank. They're working with DAZN. I said it's a friendly divorce. I still work on the darts. Matchroom have a contract on the darts with Sky for the next few years. So, let's hope we can work now, even if we're on other sides of the fence, professionally and properly together. And that Eddie gets on with his shows, we get on with our shows. And actually, when we come together and fuse together, like we did for AJ this week or last week, we will do that again, professionally, properly, for the business. And, Anthony Joshua's promoter is Eddie Hearn. We work with Anthony Joshua, we work with Eddie Hearn, we work with Anthony Joshua. That's what we do. Now we're concentrating on Boxer, we're concentrating on our new promoter who has a new deal with us, and our promoters in the States, Top Rank, our double deal. That is what we focus on now. And we wait and see what happens with Anthony, what happens with the contract, where he goes, when the next fight is. And we wish Eddie wish Eddie well on DAZN. We wish them all, our Matchroom, our former colleagues, we worked for 10 years with them. Of course we do. We wish them well. I'm back on the darts next week, Umar, working with Matt Porter and the great darts team. It's business. It's professional. So I don't think it's really great that Eddie would say, oh, they didn't interview me enough. They didn't that. I mean, concentrate on bringing your fighter back. Concentrate on what we do next together. And yes, definitely. The word was to interview Eddie Hearn and interview everybody that was involved in the fight, particularly the fighters. That's important to know, right? Was Eddie not on our television? Was Eddie not at the press conference right in the middle? Of course he was, as was everybody. But for me, the main thing is about the fighters. And the fighters were respectful and brilliant beforehand. Totally, like the Klitschko and Joshua build up, really respectful of each other. And then they went in and they had a 12-round battle. It's great for boxing. And of course, Eddie's disappointed that Anthony's lost. And many people are disappointed that Anthony's lost, of the British fight fans, of people that have worked with him for a long time. He's been with Sky for a long time, but this is boxing. We call it as we see it. We go into another era now. It's Alexander Usyk who's world heavyweight champion. And we wait to see what happens next in the rematch. But we're very confident that we can work something out with Anthony Joshua. We obviously want to keep him with us. We've had him from the very beginning. We'd like to work with Alexander Usyk. We'd like to work with all the great fighters, Umar. You know that. And if we've got a situation where we work with Matchroom and Eddie again in boxing, of course we're going to do it again. And of course we're going to be very professional. But for me, it's about Ben and Ben's team, and how we go forward on October the 2nd and October the 16th and the tournament show and all the top rank shows that are coming before Christmas. That's now our focus as we wait and see what happens to Anthony. But yeah, Eddie wants to come to the darts next week in Leicester. I'd love to see it.
Just the last one. Then, of course, it is fight week for Chris Eubank Jr. live on Sky Sports with Boxer. Obviously, a changing opponent due to COVID. Obviously, we're going to see each other on Thursday and discuss that more. But just a quick word on your first show with Boxer.
Very, very exciting, Umar. There's a lot of work that's gone in behind the scenes. Rome's not built in a day. It's going to take time. It's not all going to happen on Saturday night, all going to happen on October the 16th, all going to happen on November the 6th at the first tournament show. This is going to be a work in progress. As I said, we're sort of starting from scratch again. We've got 30 years of history behind us, but we've worked with Matchroom for most of those, and now they decided to move to DAZN. They had their reasons. We now have to go again because boxing and Sky are in unison. Year in, year out, for 30 years, we've been invested in this sport. And now we're going to have more content, more shows, more relationship with grassroots, and a more innovative way forward than I think we've ever had, because we've got all the brilliant people behind the scenes at Sky and Comcast working on it. We've got a new, young, innovative company in Boxer who've got their chance. They're fresh. They're so ambitious. They want this challenge. We've got a global powerhouse in Top Rank that have provided so much entertainment for so many people over the years, and huge names. And with them come the Lomachenkos, the Inues, the Crawfords, the Michaela Myers, so many. And I think that it's a really exciting time. It's a massive challenge for us. As I said, we're not going to get everything right. It's going to take time. But as far as a kickoff on Saturday, I can't be more excited. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be a new look, a new feel around ringside. A great lineup. Chris Eubank returns. We can't wait for that. He surely should become a star on our platforms. Another fighter who I think really can become a star is Richard Riakporhe. It's a great backstory. We haven't seen him for very long. He looks fantastic. He's got real knockout power. He's in a really interesting division at cruiserweight. We saw Okoli the other night. He could even go up into the heavyweight ranks. So he's really exciting, but people haven't talked about him for a long time. He's been away. Now is the time for us to focus on him, give him real exposure. We've got a terrific European title fight. David Avanesian back. You know, what a great fighter he is. Avoided the win against Josh Kelly. You know, he should be knocking on the door again with all the big names, but they want to avoid him. What's he got? He's got a great fight against Liam Taylor. You know, Liam's been waiting for his opportunity. He's got that. We've got a European defense. We've got Ebony Jones. I can't wait to see Ebony Jones's debut. You know, she did so well at Team GB. Weight wasn't quite right. She goes, you know, in our fantastic sort of female stable that we've got, with Caroline Dubois going to debut in a few weeks' time. Savannah Marshall on October the 16th. You know, we can't wait for that. Clarissa Shields. That big fight's in the melting pot. You know, Georgia O'Connor, April Hunter, and others will come. You know, it's a wonderful, wonderful. Women's boxing is now boxing, isn't it? We shouldn't talk about it like women's boxing anymore. It's boxing at the top level. You know, Katie Taylor's done that. Terry Harper, Chantel Cameron, Savannah Marshall. And look what we've got. We've now got Caroline Dubois, who I think is going to be an absolute superstar. And we're going to take our time with her. She's young. She's going to be fabulous. And I think that, you know, the mix we've got now with the men and the women, it's just great boxing, Umar. You know, it's fantastic. And we've got that in Newcastle with Savannah back, along with Hughie Fury, along with Lewis Ritson. Great night in Newcastle on October the 16th. But yeah, we kick off at Wembley. Great card as well with Jermaine Brown and Jamel Ledoux as well. You know, that's a really good fight. Joe Pickford on it. It's going to be fantastic. And, you know, look, Wembley Arena, great arena, great news story. As I said, don't expect, you know, miracles in the first few weeks, but expect very, very good shows, a new look, different things, innovation, as we try and experiment and work out and take risks and make it more fun, more entertaining, more accessible to fight fans. You know, we want to get into the grassroots, really, you know, work with the ABA and work with, you know, the different sort of young kids around the country, as well as the top names. You know, you've got your Josh Taylor from Top Rank. You've got, you know, Chris Eubank, you know, who got the deal with the co-promotional deal for this show with Wasserman, and, you know, they're bringing Chris Eubank. We've got Chris Eubank. We've got Josh Taylor. They're two great names. But we've also got, you know, Savannah Marshall, Richard Riakporhe, Hughie Fury, others to follow, and young stars who are going to be made on Sky. It's the biggest platform in the UK for sport. With our friends at Top Rank, they've got ESPN, the biggest global platform in the States. Why wouldn't you want to come to Sky if you want to become a star? You've got the platform. We've got the backing now. We're going back in a big way. We haven't left boxing. Everyone thinks we've left it because Eddie's gone away. No. Promoter doesn't make boxing. We had a fantastic run with Eddie. Love working with him. He's gone. We've got to go again. And Ben is a different man to Eddie Hearn. He's younger. He's not. He doesn't want to hog the camera. He doesn't want to be in front of it. And I understand. Eddie's brilliant at that. Ben is brilliant brain, brilliant at innovating. People don't know how good he is yet. He's ambitious. He's calm. He is clever, and he's going to be doing interviews. And of course, you know, he's got a team around him that are going to, you know, provide the background and the backbone for him. And we at Sky as well. And we'll all be together. That's the whole point of this, to unite, to try and get a really, really good new feel in a new era for boxing, which is going to be different, and it's going to take the sport forward. Look at the tournament shows. Concept that he's tried out, concept that way back with Prize Fighter was tried out by Matchroom as well. That's really exciting, going to give opportunities for fighters up and down the country who people maybe haven't heard of to get involved. Big cash prize, different sort of audience, eyeballs. You know, maybe it's more of a YouTube influencer crowd. It's going to be a different vibe, the tournament shows. But I think that we've seen, because we've dipped our toes into the YouTube world with KSI and Logan Paul, we've seen that there are different ways that people like to consume boxing. There's the hardcore ways, the trade fans, like you and I want to see all the big fights, whatever channel they're on. They've got DAZN, they've got BT, they've got Channel 5, they've got us, they've got huge amounts of boxing to watch now. They've got their choice. They can go wherever, right? Competition is great. It's fantastic. We embrace it. It's good for fighters. It's good for fans. But we're really back ourselves, Umar. We've got the Premier League, we've got the big golf, the big cricket, the big Formula One, the big darts, the big, so much sport. And that's just the sport. You add on the entertainment side, Sky Showcase. You add on our links with NBC and Universal. You add on Top Rank and ESPN. We've got a fair few platforms covered here, and a way that we can get eyeballs onto boxing, like others can't. So we're very confident. We're not saying we've got everything. We haven't. We had our stable taken away from us, or Matchroom took their stable away from us. So we've had to start afresh. And believe you me, Umar, we're in it. We're in it for the long haul. We're going to be very successful. It may not happen all at once, but it will take time. It's a journey, and it's a great, great start. In a few weeks, we've managed to get a load of good fighters. We've got a hugely great, important schedule ahead. I'm going to be keeping my eye on Ben to make sure Ben and John are giving us the great fights. John Wishusen's so important to this. Same with Top Rank. Can't wait for my lunch with Todd today to make sure that we are aligned on strategy, and that fight fans and Sky customers are getting the best from the States and the new era from the UK. And we hope everyone will get behind it and enjoy it. And it's really, really exciting.
Okay, Adam Smith, appreciate your time on IFL TV. As I said, we will speak on Thursday at the press conference, and Friday at the weigh-in, and Saturday on Fight Night. So roll on Wembley Arena this weekend. Thank you.
Fantastic. Can't wait. Cheers, Duma.
Thanks, Adam.